If you've ever been curious to know what goes on during an ayahuasca ceremony, then you're in the right place, because in this video, I'm going to be sharing what happens during an ayahuasca ceremony, and one that is held by an indigenous Shipibo shaman from the Peruvian Amazon. I'll preface this by saying that this is simply just what I experienced at the retreat center that I attended in Peru, and that every retreat center and shaman may do things differently from one another. So without further ado, let's get into it. But before I get into the actual ceremony itself, I wanted to quickly and briefly touch on the preparation and cleansing process, as it is a very important aspect of the ayahuasca journey, because it is believed that the moment you make the decision and commitment to work with ayahuasca, the medicine begins working on you even before drinking her. And this is why it's so important and highly recommended that during this time you're making the conscious effort to make necessary lifestyle changes, because you are essentially preparing yourself, mind, body, and soul, for the work that you are about to do with the medicine. If you think of your body as a vessel, you want it to be as clean and pure as possible before entering into ceremony, because you are showing the spirit of ayahuasca your commitment, intention, and dedication to the process. So adhering to very clean and healthy eating that falls in line with the ayahuasca diet, refraining from drugs and alcohol, or at least really trying your best to limit your usage before the start of your retreat, abstaining from sexual activity, cutting back on your social media usage, and just really being mindful of who you choose to spend your time and energy with during this time is all very important aspects of the preparation and cleansing process. And lastly, another thing I wanted to mention here is that it will be very beneficial if you use this time to implement some sort of daily practice to your routine, and one that includes yoga, meditation, breath work, and also using this time to really focus on yourself and go inward and try to narrow down on your intention to 1 to 2 points, because assuming you're considering working with ayahuasca, you probably already have your reasons for wanting to sit with the medicine in the first place. But if you have a very clear intention, this will be very helpful during ceremony when things may get a little challenging or you're feeling like you're losing control. Having a clear intention will really help you anchor back into your body, because you can remind yourself of your purpose for being there in the first place. And if it's clear, this will make things a lot more easier for you. So now that we briefly covered the cleansing and preparation process, I'm going to begin discussing the initial phase of the ceremony. So the retreat center that I went to, it included 3 ayahuasca ceremonies in the week. So the first one was on Monday night, second one was on Tuesday night, and then the final ceremony was on Thursday night. So at the beginning of the retreat, each participant had a one-on-one meeting with the maestros, the shamans, and the facilitators. And this was to go over your intentions and what you hope to get out of the experience, as well as your dosage. At the start of the retreat, you were also assigned a designated bed, which would include a pillow, a blanket, a purge bucket, as well as a roll of toilet paper and a mini flashlight. And then during ceremony nights, there were always 2 maestros and 3 facilitators there to help the participants with whatever they may need during the night. So the ceremony would begin by all the participants meeting in the temple room for 8 p.m. So you would go to your designated bed, and then the maestros would begin the ceremony by performing a limpia, which is a cleansing ritual in order to cleanse and protect the ceremony room, as well as themselves and all the participants in the space. So what this would look like is, if it were your turn, you would kneel at the foot of your bed with your head bowed down and your arms open to receive the blessing. The maestro would then begin blowing mapacho smoke, which is sacred tobacco, starting from the crown of your head and then working his way down. So once this has been completed and everyone has been cleansed and protected, the maestro would then go back to his seat and perform the same ritual on the ayahuasca. And this is to call in the intentions of healing and protection for the ceremony. Now, the reason why this cleansing ritual is so important during an ayahuasca ceremony is because it is believed that when you're under the effects of the medicine, your energy field then becomes very open. And this puts you in a very vulnerable position and at risk for any dark energies or spirits that may be lingering around the energy field to then enter into your energy field. And this is why the maestros really take their time and put in the effort into this ritual, because they want to ensure that everybody in the space is properly cleansed and protected. Another tool that is used during ayahuasca ceremonies for cleansing and protection is something called agua de Florida, which is essentially crushed flowers mixed with alcohol. Yeah, this is also something that is used during ceremony, and they always have extra bottles on hand anytime a participant wants to use some. Like for instance, if I felt like I just really wanted to cleanse myself of anything I'm carrying during ceremony, I would just take the agua de Florida, I would put some in my hand, and then I would start wiping it all over my body. And it also helps during ceremony if you're experiencing symptoms of nausea or dizziness. You can also pour it in your hand and inhale it a few times, and this will help to bring those symptoms down. So once the whole cleansing and protection ritual has been completed, it is now time for the maestros to administer the ayahuasca. So you would be called up to sit in front of the maestro, and then the ayahuasca would then be poured into a measuring beaker cup to ensure that you're receiving the proper dosage. And then the maestro would then bless the medicine one last time before handing it to you. And then at this point, you can take your cup and then close your eyes, thank the medicine, and speak your intention quietly into your cup, and then proceed to drink. After you have drunk the medicine, you would then head back to your bed. And if you feel like you have any lingering taste in your mouth that you want to rid of, you are allowed to swish with water and spit it out. However, you are not allowed to drink the water, or during any point in ceremony, you're not allowed to drink water because this can make you feel very nauseous. Now, in regards to the taste, I wouldn't go as far as saying it was the worst tasting thing I've ever had, because it definitely wasn't. I suppose it could be comparable to cough syrup or molasses because it had that same thick syrupy like texture with a bit of sweetness to it. But yeah, definitely manageable. So after you drink the medicine, as I said, you would go back to your bed, and then it's now time for the maestros and the facilitators to drink. I'm not exactly sure what the dosage the maestros drink, but I do know that during ceremony they are very deep in the medicine. But regarding facilitators, it's not mandatory for them to drink, but I believe they do drink a very small amount, just enough for them to connect to the spirit of ayahuasca and the energy of the space. So once everyone has drunk the medicine, the lights are then turned off, and it's now time to wait for the effects to kick in. So during this period, you are instructed to sit up straight with your legs crossed to allow the medicine to flow through you more easily. I believe this period lasted around 20 to 25 minutes, if I remember correctly, but you may begin to feel the effects even within 10 to 15 minutes. For instance, with myself, I'm very sensitive to ayahuasca and other psychedelics, so I begin feeling the effects pretty quickly. Now, in regards to the initial effects that you may feel at this point, you may begin to feel your body start to tingle a bit. You may begin to notice yourself feeling hot or cold. You may start to get sweaty or like clammy hands. You may begin yawning. You may have to go number 2. So yeah, these are all the initial effects of the medicine. And this is the point when shit starts to get very real, because this is when the maestros will begin with their medicine chants or songs, which are called Icaros. Now, I'm going to very briefly and quickly explain what Icaros are, but for the purpose of this video, I won't be going into too much detail about this because this is a topic that I'm so very fascinated by, and I think I might just make a separate video on this topic on its own. But for now, the best way that I could describe Icaros are they are essentially the medicine songs or chants sung by the maestros, and they pretty much can steer or guide the direction of how a ceremony is going to go based on the participants' needs and the energy of the space. So basically, the maestros are able to pick up on the energy field of a person. They can actually, from what I understand, see that energy field, and they can direct an Icaro towards the deepest part of that person's individual needs of healing to perform a sort of energetic surgery or operation on that person. So the Icaros are sung in a dialect, and the maestro will change the speed, tone, or pitch of the Icaros depending on what is needed in that particular moment during ceremony. So there are Icaros to produce more healing, there's Icaros to call on for more visions, to intensify the experience, or to calm the experience down. Now, I know for someone who has never sat in an ayahuasca ceremony before or experienced something like this before, this may sound very far-fetched or even crazy, and I completely understand why that would be. But as someone who has sat in several ayahuasca ceremonies now, I can 100% guarantee that this is very real, and the maestros are very highly skilled and highly trained. They have dedicated their lives to helping heal others, and this is healing practices that have been passed down from generation to generation. So now that I briefly touched on what the Icaros are, I'm going to go back to the ceremony. So at this point, the maestros are continuing on with their Icaros. Everyone is in their own individual healing process. The purging may get more intense at this point, so you may be experiencing physical pain in the body, you may be moving your body a lot, you may be crying, laughing. And so the reason why purging is so important during an ayahuasca ceremony is because it is essentially a way for the body to rid of any negative stagnant energy that one has been carrying as a result of traumas, addictions. But yeah, the purging is a way for the individual to release this negative energy from the body. And so ayahuasca is really good at bringing forth these issues and traumas, and then through the purge they can be released. And also at this point, the visions may start to get very intense, but through the visions, you may be able to unlock suppressed memories from childhood. You may be able to connect with loved ones, deceased loved ones, or your ancestors, or you may receive insights or messages. And one thing I wanted to note here is that ayahuasca is commonly referred to as grandmother or mother ayahuasca. And the reason for this is not because the medicine is male or female, but it's because the way the energy of the medicine tends to feel or show up is that of a grandmother or a mother-like energy. And the best way I can describe this, or like an analogy I like to use, is that ayahuasca to me is like the tough love that you receive from a mother that you don't necessarily want, but that you really need as a child. And so while you're under the effects of the medicine, you may very well be in communication or dialogue with this higher power or spirit, and it's a really helpful way to get closure on situations you may be dealing with, or to get insights on certain things that you're dealing with as well. And also, a lot of the times in the visions, the spirit of ayahuasca may show up as like a female deity. So yeah, this is why the medicine is typically referred to as grandmother or mother ayahuasca. And another thing I wanted to note here is that not everyone receives visions every single time, and this doesn't make the experience any less or any more than. It's simply just because that is what is needed at that particular time. For instance, with myself, my first ayahuasca ceremonies were all mainly visual. With I was also purging as well, but my last ayahuasca retreat, my ceremonies were mainly all physical. They always say that the medicine always knows what you need, and this couldn't be more true, because regardless if you receive visions or not, the medicine still works through you, and it's working through you on a cellular level. It's repairing your physical body. So yeah, it's pretty magical stuff. Now, a form of purging, of course, is having to go number 2. And there are facilitators there to help you walk to and from the bathroom, because another effect of the medicine is that you may feel your legs feel like jello, and this makes it very hard to walk. So it's great because, again, the facilitators are there to help you to the bathroom, and this is where your flashlight comes in, because anytime you would need assistance, you would just click the flashlight and a facilitator will be there to assist you with whatever you need. So now we reach the middle part of the ceremony. And for some people, they may still be very deep in the medicine, but for other people, the medicine may have started to wear off at this point, and this is where the facilitators will call for a second dose. It's not mandatory to drink, but it's available to you if you want. The retreat that I went to, on the first night, up to 3 doses were offered. That included the first dose that you took at the beginning of the ceremony. And then on nights 2 and 3, only 2 dosages were administered. And one thing I wanted to note here is that if at any point during the ceremony things are really, really intense for you and you feel like you need help, there is something that the maestros can give you as a way to just take the experience of intensity down a notch, and this is lemon juice. I'm not sure if it's just lemon juice alone or if it's mixed with something, but yeah, this is very helpful if at any point you feel like it's just like really, really intense. It will help take it down just a notch. You won't be completely sober, but it will make it a lot more manageable. So after the second and third dose have been administered, the ceremony pretty much just continues on, and then we're nearing towards the ending of the ceremony. But before it's over, this is the time where everyone receives their personal Icaro for the evening. So what this is that the maestro will perform a more intense healing and a blessing of protection to close the ceremony on each person. So if it were your turn, a facilitator will come to your bed and help you walk and help you sit down in front of the maestro, and then you would close your eyes, and then the maestro would perform the Icaro on you, and this usually took about 5 minutes. And also on the final night of ceremony, when you receive your personal Icaro or arcana, it is actually voice recorded and then sent to you after the retreat is finished. And the final arcana is pretty much the Icaro of the final blessing and protection to seal the work that has been done over the course of the 3 ceremonies. So after everyone has received their personalized Icaro, then a facilitator will ask how everyone is doing and if anyone is still feeling the effects of the medicine. And if at any point anyone says that they are feeling the effects of the medicine, then the ceremony continues until every single person is back to baseline. So the maestro would continue on with the Icaros, and the ceremony would continue. And the craziest thing about this is that every single time I thought the ceremony was coming to a close and I felt like I was sobering up, the minute that the maestro would begin chanting the Icaros again, it would just pull me right back into the ayahuasca realm, and I would be right back into the whole experience. And yeah, this literally happened every single time. So they would continue on until everyone is back to baseline. And one quick thing I wanted to note here is that during ceremony, you could very well be in your own healing process and very deep in the medicine. But during the first ceremony, you really quickly realize just how connected you are energetically to every single person in that room. Like, it's pretty incredible just how much you feel for everyone there without even knowing them on a personal level. And how this would look is that, like, someone could be in their own healing process and you're really feeling their pain, the pain of what they're going through, and it's like you know what they're going through without even knowing them. And anytime this would happen to me, I would literally just like sit there and just like physically send like positive vibes and love towards them and just pray for them. And the craziest thing about this is that it wasn't only me who experienced this, it was actually the majority of people there experienced it too, because during the group share the following morning, everyone pretty much said the exact same thing. So it's pretty amazing just how connected you are to every single person in the ceremony. So the facilitators will ask how everyone is doing again, and if everyone is back to baseline, then the ceremony comes to a close, the lights are turned on, and the maestros get up, they thank everyone for the evening, and then they leave and everyone claps and thanks them and shares a laugh of relief for surviving what everyone just went through. And then at this point, the facilitators will hand out tea and refreshments, and you're allowed to talk amongst one another. And this is where having a journal will come in handy, because it can be helpful to just write things down immediately after to help you remember them. And yeah, you're allowed to hang out in the temple room for as long as you wish. You were even allowed to sleep in there if you wanted to, but if not, you can just head back to your own room and then just go to sleep. And then the following morning, a group share is held in the temple room, and this is a time where everyone can share some highlights from the night before. It's a time for the maestros and the facilitators to share a little bit as well, and if anyone has any questions, this is a time to ask as well. So after surviving these ceremonies, it is time to step back into the real world, and this is where the integration process comes in. And it's very important because I think there is this big misconception with ayahuasca or other psychedelic medicines that taking the medicine is the cure to all one's problems, and this couldn't be further from the truth, because the medicine is only one component of the healing process, but the actual work begins once you're back into the real world. And of course, drinking ayahuasca is a very life-changing experience. There is no denying that. But again, the real work begins when you're back in the real world, when you're back in the comforts of your own home, and you are now faced with a choice. Are you going to revert back to your old unhealthy habits and ways, maintain unhealthy relationships, or are you going to live in alignment and integrity with your highest self, the self that you fought so hard for during ceremony, to release and let go of all that negative, toxic baggage that you've been carrying, only to go back to it? And this is why it's so important that during this time you are being very mindful of who you choose to spend your time and energy with, that you're continuing leading a very healthy lifestyle physically, mentally, and emotionally, that you are implementing new activities in your life, that you're tapping into your creativity, because this is a time where you're also very open energetically and new neural pathways have been made in the brain, and you're now more receptive to change. So yeah, this is why integration is such an important, if not the most important, aspect of the whole ayahuasca journey. So I hope you found this video to be helpful in some way. If there's anything that I didn't cover that you're curious about, please feel free to leave a comment down below or reach out to me directly. I'll be more than happy to help in any way that I can. So thank you so much again, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye for now. Take care.